From the city of Peaky Blinders, Birmingham, England, I would like to introduce you to Paddy Danda.
As the world becomes more automated and the robots take over, it's imperative that we build the right human skills for the future. So pull up a chair, grab a samosa or two, and make yourself very uncomfortable. If you had to bring, one superpower to this episode, what might that be?
One is what I might bring. The other is what the book or Bezos or Amazon or what I've learned might bring. And they're sort of intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the questions I still ask is, why hadn't somebody else already done what I did? And why me? Right? I mean, kind of insurance risk, kind of a side thing. How did that fit? And actually in the book, I call Bezos the master of risk, because I believe he has this intuitive way of thinking about risk as a strategic strategy, right? Understanding that you have to take risks to grow and that they're not all going to work, and being willing to, as he says, suffer the consequences, waiting for that big payoff. But what is it that I was able to see? Well, I think some of it is, again, I'll talk about what I think, and I'm not sure I'd call it a superpower, but I think it is something I have, an ability I have to actually read through, right, at the time, probably, what was it, 20 different shareholder letters, and not just read them, but extract out of them information that I think is helpful to people. So I put that in the research area, and it is something that I enjoy doing. Something I've done over my career, right, is read up on different technologies, early days, right, like websites and using Facebook to sell insurance and all those kinds of things. But looking into it and then being able to see what are some of the core principles, core ideas that people might be missing or not understanding, and being able to explain them in a non-geekish way, if I may phrase it like that. So, I think that's something that I certainly bring, at least to what I do, and why I brought it to the book. And, certainly the book has had some success, surprisingly to me. I mean, here in the U.S., Wall Street Journal, USA Today bestseller. I hesitate there. It's been transcribed into, I think, currently 16 languages, and 2 or 3 more are on the way. So wow. Internationally, it's resonated with people in what I think is a surprising way to me, I guess, as the author, the one who came up with the ideas, and put them in a way that I hope are consumable and useful to people.
What an amazing story. I mean, you talked there about your sort of interest in the topic and then willingness to go and start researching and analyzing. I mean, if I were to summarize all of that, having that curious mindset.
I think, yes. I am curious. I like learning new things. I like exploring, and that's just a part of who I am.
And it's amazing how you've sort of connected the dots here, because there's a background of technology. You mentioned about risk as being something you would look at day in, day out as part of your insurance sort of profession. And, bringing all of that together in such a unique way on a subject matter that is, at the forefront of probably everyone's minds, is how do we continue to innovate? What can we learn from some of these other amazing organizations? And Amazon's a great example of that. And so let's look at that in a little bit more detail. I guess to develop that curious mindset, if somebody was out there who were sort of thinking about, well, hey, I would love to do more on that front. I would love to do more research. How do you do that? Like, is that something you are just born with? Is that something you build over time?
I think it's both. I think there certainly is an inclination that somebody has. I mean, I've always liked to read. I've always been curious about different topics. And really the last 25 years building my small business around that ability to consume information. I mean, one of the things I get asked all the time is, how do I read so much? Or how do I know so much? And I hesitated on that one because I don't know that I know, but I consume a lot of information, and I seem to have an ability to synthesize it into, smaller chunks, or maybe even make some connections with other things that I might have read. So I think there's partly an innate ability or desire or way to look at that. I won't go too deep into this, but if you're familiar with I'm trying to think how to describe it, I guess, a typing type system called the Enneagram. I'm not, and I believe me, I'm not going to go into that, but I'm type 5, which is the researcher. So that kind of just lends it to, there is some innate ability or desire or interest on my part to do that. I think for others, it's that curiosity can help drive and grow that. So what are you curious about? I think one of the tools maybe is I have a pretty wide ranging interest in reading, from books to articles to, history to lots of different things. And again, I get asked, how do I consume all that information? Well, I've honed a process that I think I can look at an article online, a blog post or something, and pretty quickly tell if it's something of interest or not. And frankly, if it's of interest, whatever that might mean, I actually store it. So I use Evernote, which is a online, platform. And I probably I haven't looked lately, but I probably have almost 50,000 notes, be they article clips and so then when I have an idea, I can do research, right? Find out, okay, what did I capture? I remember reading something about this somewhere, and then being able to find it, bring it into an article that I might be writing and use it to flesh out some of that. So some of that's trained, right? What makes a good story, for example, even writing the book. My wife is co-author, which is a whole interesting story. Yeah.
Why is she not here? Wait, hey, Steve, don't even know that.
I was going to say, well, she always says it's all my ideas, but if you enjoy reading the book, that's her superpower, actually. Marvelous editor, marvelous strategic book coach, thinking how to put a book together as somebody actually wants to read and to finish. And so we're still married. That's also another question I get, right? How do you write a book with your wife? And I said, I trust her implicitly. If she says it doesn't work, it doesn't work. In fact, we had a few of those along the book writing journey, but understanding that, and I've understood this for a long time, I think that stories are what engage people. So the more you can put a story around a concept or an idea, the better people remember it and engage with it. So that's a bit of a rambling answer there, but I think there are kind of different components. And I'll bring it back to Bezos. I think one of the things that fascinated me, my early phrase was Bezos hid in plain sight his plan for growing Amazon. And he was freely talking about all these things, right? High velocity decisions and successful failure, and why risk taking is a key, and why inventing is so important, and long-term thinking, and all kinds of things that every one of these principles talks to. I think he himself wanted to help other business owners. And he did it by the way he wrote those particular letters. And so I think that's fascinating to me also.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much, Steve. I think there's just so many golden nuggets in there. I myself, I wish I was a bigger reader. I'm one of these people, I have best intention, and there's a few books behind me there. Many of those have never been read. And I just sometimes feel good, the fact that they're there on the shelf. And, but I wish I did do more reading. But what's helped is certainly this whole explosion in terms of, YouTube and podcasting and all of these other medium, because I definitely try now with intent to have some form of learning going on. Even when I'm brushing my teeth, I'll make sure I'll put something on in the background, so I'm consuming some information. But yeah, that's fantastic, to be able to read. And I encourage my kids to read more. They still don't understand why Daddy's telling them to read, but I'll get them to listen to the podcast and say, hey, look, here's Steve telling you as well. But no, thank you so much for your time today, Steve. Really appreciate your insights. We'll put the sort of links to the book in the show notes as well, so people can go check it out.
Available on Amazon, so.
Oh, there you go. There you go. I hope they're giving you some form of incentive to plug their organization.
Yes, well, people ask, one, have I met Jeff Bezos? I have not. Again, part of it for me was we made a decision pretty early on. My perspective is different in terms of kind of that risk taking, et cetera, and I wanted it from an outside. And I didn't interview a lot of people. I talked to a few that worked at Amazon or had in the past. But it really was around the letters, and that anybody could do what I did, but I did it for them and helped them to be able to see the insights that I saw in these letters. And hopefully my goal is to have them think about them and incorporate into their own business those things that resonate with them, that they think will help them grow too.
Oh, nice. Love that. Thank you once again, Steve.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, you're welcome.